All right, shall we? Let's check it out. Okay, welcome into Rob Schmitt Tonight. I'm Bob Brooks, filling in for Robbie as the night off. One of the most important, if not the most important, holiday weekends is here. That is Memorial Day. We honor the men and women who were brave enough and had enough courage, got to remember that, to put on a military uniform and then give the ultimate sacrifice of their lives so we could live in the greatest country on earth. They gave everything so we could function as a free society where if you work hard, you pay your taxes, you abide by the laws, you will enjoy the perks of living in the world's foremost first world society. And in this country, you're not supposed to rip us off. You're not supposed to game the system and defraud it, especially of the tax dollars we all work so hard for, and then we got to turn around and then pay it back to the government. We expect good things to be done with that money. The people we elect and put in charge of that money, they're supposed to be good stewards of it, right? When that doesn't happen, this makes us very angry. And that has happened, a slap in the face to all Americans in Minnesota, likely elsewhere. But now, finally, thanks to this administration, people are going to jail for a long time. So let's start with this person, Amy Block, everybody. The convicted ringleader of the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota. She was sentenced to more than 40 years in prison on Thursdays. See you later, Amy Block. You have been found guilty of being in charge of stealing $250 million of our money. Have fun spending the next 40 years in jail. Hope it was worth it. President Trump and this administration, congratulations for delivering on this one. But that's not all. The task force being headed by our Vice President J.D. Vance also has announced this. Criminal charges against 15 defendants, including owners of child care centers and various Medicaid providers, for their alleged participation in various fraud schemes involving upwards $90 million in intended losses. Think about that. Look at this. I want to show you this. This is pathetic. The FBI executing their raids. One of the people indicted, Mohammed Omar, he jumped off the roof of a building. He tried to run away limping. I think he hurt himself when he did it. Kash Patel has now reported he is in custody. See you later to that guy as well. That man likely to face a similar outcome like Amy Block. Look, now, Democrats, they'll all say this about race, right? Targeting the Somali community. Here were some of the Minnesota politicians in the media when this case was first gaining national attention, all about race.
This is often a precursor to hate crimes.
The Somali immigrant population may have been involved in some way. Those people are being scapegoated.
Someone is feeding the president this racist, dehumanizing information.
What they want to do is scapegoat communities of color, scapegoat immigrants, and aggregate power.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
Amy Block is a white woman. Now, I'm sure you would all agree with me on this. I don't care what color you are. You could be white, black, brown, purple. You could be a purple-skinned person. If you participate, you need to be prosecuted. And this is about having a normal country. You can't steal from welfare programs any amount. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars here, likely more. You know, it's a shame this happened, but luckily we now have an administration in charge that is getting after this, setting the new tone. You cannot do this in America. And here was the vice president on that.
This kind of behavior is sickening. It's disgusting. It's an affront to all of us as Americans. And today we're saying clearly, no more. Our message is simple. If you are committing fraud, our task force will find you. We'll come after you, and we will not rest until justice is served.
And the vice president is right. This is sick, and for a lot of reasons. Number one, you think about the people that actually need the health care, those funds, the kids that needed the food the money was supposed to buy. It's reported that those who are indicted bought luxury cars, jewelry, dozens of homes. That makes me sick, but it's also sick that it got this far. Amy Block, she was in charge, the executive director of Feeding Our Future program. There was just absolutely no respect for the American people when it came to this. She stole our money. And then where was the oversight, right? Tim Walz, He said this was racist. You just heard him. Investigating fraud was racist. That guy almost became the vice president. Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman, she was in tight with some of these people that were indicted. How about this guy? Look at him. All right. Salim Ahmed Saeed. He was the restaurant owner. He was indicted on 21 federal counts for his involvement for Feeding Our Future, that scheme. Well, guess where Ilhan Omar had her 2018 campaign victory party? She had it at his restaurant. She's also being looked at for immigration fraud, marrying her brother, allegedly. And here was the vice president on that.
You read the things about Ilhan Omar and about, who she married and whether she didn't marry this person or that person. It certainly seems like something fishy is there, but everybody's entitled to equal justice under the laws. So we're going to investigate it. We're going to take a look at it. If we think that there's a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime. And that's something the Department of Justice is looking at right now.
Okay, Ilhan Omar, she has responded to that. Here's that.
This is just a made-up lie because you do not investigate someone for 10 years and not come up with anything.
So then why do you think it's still being talked about?
Because these people are disgusting. They believe in weird, creepy things, and that's why they want to believe in this weird.
And
that's all I will say.
No, it's like
they're racist, they're xenophobic. I just happen to be Muslim.
Looks fishy to me, but as far as being racist, tell you what, your name could be Joe Smith All-America for all I care. What we want is for people not to steal our money, and if you do, you're prosecuted. I think it's pretty simple, and that goes for any crime like this. I want to show you this tonight. This is video of when ICE was conducting Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, going after illegals. In front, you saw the crash already, was a white pickup ramming into the back of the truck a black SUV. The man in the SUV that ran the ICE agent, his name Diego Emmanuel Reyes, the DOJ has now announced yesterday that he was indicted for doing just that. We're showing you this video tonight just so you know this kind of stuff. This is what ICE agents were up against, which is what exactly Democrats were calling for and have been calling for their people to do to ICE while they try and go out and work, because they want to protect criminal illegal aliens for some insane reason. Not prosecute, as I showed you earlier, those people who were stealing millions upon millions of your dollars. You see, by going against President Trump and the GOP at large, minus a few Republicans in name only, or as we like to call them, rhinos, I think it's pretty simple. Being for this agenda, this administration, that's because it is common sense. The platform is built around common sense. And Democrats, they had to go against common sense because they got to go against Trump. So when you do that, you wind up doing stuff like supporting criminal illegal aliens. Also, then, your senators, like Democrat Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, he gets on a plane. He flies to El Salvador to have margaritas with the guy who was here illegally and then got kicked out after beating his wife, joining a gang in human trafficking, amongst other things. You see, that's not normal behavior or common sense. But now, luckily, we have an administration and president that is making sure those who try to make a mockery of our country will be prosecuted, because that is what they do. They make a mockery of our society that all of us are trying to live in. We also have a president now that supports families who have been terrorized by these people, like when we saw the president today call up the family of Sheridan Gorman. And if you don't know, Sheridan Gorman was a freshman at Loyola University, Chicago. She was shot and killed in March this year in Chicago while walking with her friends in what is called Toby Prince Beach. They wanted to take photos of the Chicago skyline to try and catch a glimpse of the northern lights. And then out from the bushes comes this guy, Jose Medina, here illegally from Venezuela, who shot her in the back of the head.
This beautiful, beautiful 18-year-old college student was walking in a park in Chicago when she was gunned down by an illegal alien monster in cold blood. This savage animal who stole Sheridan's life entered illegally from Venezuela and was released into our country by crooked Joe Biden. He was then arrested and released again by Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker. Sanctuary cities protect criminals. They're a sanctuary for criminals, not for people like you, like us.
Jose never should have been here. Sheridan should still be alive. Kristin Robbins, Minnesota State Representative and chair of the Fraud Prevention Committee. Also, David Gaither, former Minnesota State Senator, joins us now. Pleasure to have you both on. Kristin, want to start with you. Just talk about the indictments that have come down Amy Bach is going to jail for a long time. The work that you're doing to rectify this situation.
Yes, we're so thankful for the work of our federal partners at the Department of Justice, Department of Treasury. They have done terrific work yesterday. We had 15 new indictments in Medicaid fraud. We've had 78 indictments for Feeding Our Future. So justice is coming thanks to our federal partners, and we're very grateful.
Seems like it's a lot of coordination, David. That's what it takes to do this. And then on the other side of things, the Democrats, again, people like Ilhan Omar claiming this is racist, going after the Somali community. I don't think this could be further from the truth. This is just about people not ripping off the United States.
Precisely, Bob. It's a complicated set of environments here. This is a complicated prosecution. It takes a lot of information gathering. It takes a lot of resources to do this with an unwilling cohort not wanting to be prosecuted and hiding behind the shield, the false shield of racism and some type of anti-Islamic behavior. It's just so far from the truth.
Kristin, we want to know how far this goes. I know people in Minnesota do, people around the country, we all do as well. So talk about what you predict is coming down the pipe here.
Yes, I mean, we saw 15 indictments for Medicaid fraud yesterday, totaling $90 million. So far, the largest Medicaid fraud in history, but they're just getting started. We have fraud in autism centers and sober homes and integrated community supports, housing stabilization. It will be, estimates are $9 billion by the time they get through it all. So there's a lot left to go to prosecute, and I am thankful for the FBI, for the DOJ, the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're all doing terrific work.
Now, $9 billion, that's an incredible amount of money. Just tonight, I mentioned the $250 million from the Feeding Our Future scheme, the $90 million from the indictments that came down yesterday. David, would you be in agreement here? Does it go that far? And again, the American people want this prosecuted the whole way. We want people in cuffs.
No question the American people want this. The Minnesota people want this. Justice deserves this kind of prosecution. It's my opinion that the $9 billion is understated. Repeat, understated.
Wow.
The federal prosecutor that led this, I think, is very conservative in his estimates and knows the facts.
Okay, we will all be watching. I hope you both have a great weekend. We're going to leave it there. Kristin Robbins, David Gaither, we appreciate you both coming on. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, Stephen Colbert's terrible CBS late night show finally over, and somehow the TDS-ridden late night host, he actually didn't mention the president's name at all for the final show. I know Carl just gave you his take on it. I'm going to do the same, though I even got called out last night on late night because of what I said about him yesterday. So I'm going to show you what they're saying about me tonight.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
We are green. The Indianapolis 500.
Since 1990, the lightweight Craig Cat has meant quality, affordable boating. Florida Sports Magazine called the Craig Cat an absolutely brilliant breakthrough in watercraft design. With the stability and comfort of a large boat, but the fuel efficiency and portability of a small boat, Craig Cat has put the fun back in boating. Craig Cats are also available in both electric and hybrid models. Call Craig Cat now, toll free at 877-999-4CAT and step into a Craig Cat.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline.
We were here to feel the news with you. And I don't know about you, but I sure have felt it. Tonight is our final broadcast from the Ed Sullivan Theater. This isn't goodbye, it's see you later. Yes.
Well, there you have it. The final episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on CBS had aired last night, pulling just under 7 million viewers, his most watched weeknight episode of all time. The TDS-ridden Democrat mouthpiece somehow didn't mention President Trump's name at all, unlike every other show. Instead, signing off by telling viewers that he will miss feeling the news, as you saw with them, singing along stage with Paul McCartney from the Beatles. President Trump reacted to Colbert's last episode, writing on Truth Social. Colbert is finally finished at CBS. Amazed that he lasted so long. No talent, no ratings, no life. He was like a dead person. You could take any person off the street and they would be better than this total jerk. Thank goodness he's finally gone. Adding this, Stephen Colbert's firing from CBS was the beginning of the end for untalented, nasty, highly overpaid, not funny, and very poorly rated late-night television hosts, others of even less talent, to soon follow. May they all rest in peace. All right, Trump going scorched earth right there on Stephen Colbert. The president's post kind of upset CNN's Brian Stelter, if you care about that guy, which most of you don't, I know, who claimed that Trump is celebrating the loss of jobs.
So that's the president cheering the loss of American jobs. About 200 staffers will be out of work now that the Late Show lights have been turned off.
Yeah, job loss here. Trump's not celebrating that. He's happy to see a multimillionaire Trump deranged late night host lose his show. Plus, people in TV, you know, they get let go all the time, right? Extremely common. Stelter would know that. As the liberal media pundits like Stelter mourn the loss of Colbert's show, Stephen says he feels joyful, actually.
This show, I want you to know and you to know, has been a joy for us to do for you. In fact, we call this show the Joy Machine. If you choose to do it with joy, it doesn't hurt as much when your fingers get caught in the gears.
Joy. Where have we heard that before? Well, take a look.
We ran. And the way we ran it, with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. Hard work can be joyful work.
Why they all use that word joy all the time, the Democrats. Kamala's concession classic. But the liberal press isn't feeling joy. They are devastated over this happening, as I said on the show last night. The liberal media in mourning over Colbert's show ending. Left-wing outlet Daily Beast isn't happy with Rob Finnerty or I. Take a look at that. Furious MAGA hosts meltdown at Colbert finale frenzy. Newsmax host Bob Brooks took the chance to slam Colbert on Thursday, calling him a Democrat mouthpiece, posing as a late-night comedian, adding the liberal media is all in mourning over his show ending. Yeah, that's all true. That's what it is. That's it. Here's another example from the highly heartbroken Hollywood Reporter. As the late-night show comes to an end, Stephen Colbert's sincerity will be missed most of all. Morning Joe did their take on it as well. Joe himself, he wasn't there. They had a cast of other people. Trust me, they were all upset as well. Here, take a look.
Stephen is an architect of the culture. We're going to miss him, miss his insight. For those who say, oh, he was too political, too partisan, you know, always worry when they come for the comedians.
A little bit depressing for members of the media and people who believe in free speech.
Stephen Colbert was such an amazing and he is such a talented man.
Yeah, amazing. It's just taking a crap all over the president of the United States. If that's a talent, that's what he did. Look, this is what I actually think. I think he acted like a child. The guy never took accountability. You know, when people lose a job, one like that especially, maybe there should be some self-reflection. You know, where did I go wrong? Maybe I screwed up. Why is the company getting rid of me? That's what I would do. And that's what most normal people would do as well, you know, adults. He blamed everyone else like a kid would do. That is a child's reaction. Here to weigh in, CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp. Matt, good to see you.
Hey, well done, Bob. I agree with you.
What do you think? Stephen Colbert, no more. Thank God.
You know, he's actually really funny and talented, and his show was just awful because all he really wanted to do was give political commentary and make it seem like the whole world agreed with him. When the country didn't agree with him, the other thing I find amazing is that if you look, maybe we can't know perfectly, but it looks like his show lost about $40 million a year. If the show was so successful and the content was so funny, how come nobody watched it? How come Johnny Carson got 55 million viewers in his final episode and they could barely scratch close to 6 million viewers? How come some shows on home decorating get better ratings on cable TV than this supposed juggernaut of late night TV? It is an example of the woke mind virus really ebbing in our society, and people waking up, and business executives being smart enough to say, hey, woke makes you go broke.
That's just it. And it's so true in so many different ways. Matt, he alienated pretty much half the country, maybe even more than half the country. That's really what this is about. When he did that, he didn't make the money he needed to sustain his business. You're in business, Matt, right? If you're losing $40 million a year, do you keep that thing going?
No. Matter of fact, even when you run a nonprofit, if you find that people aren't showing up or that the events are costing you a lot of money, you stop doing it, because that's a market signal. And the American people have given a huge market signal, which is, we want to be entertained. We want to laugh at the end of the day. And we can laugh at Democrats and Republicans. Sure. By the way, I make more Republican jokes in my house than I probably do Democrat
100%.
jokes. But when it all goes one way, it ceases to be funny.
It just became political commentary, and that's the sad part. All jokes aside, we wished he could have just maybe played it down the middle and been fair, but he just couldn't do it, and now no more. That's it. That's what happens. He made the choice, right?
I'm glad that the famous line from The Apprentice is at play. You're fired.
He is fired. Goodbye, Steve. All right, Matt, got to leave it there. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, coming up, Tulsi Gabbard resigns as Director of National Intelligence, stepping down June 30th to support her husband, Abraham. He was recently diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer. Tulsi said in a statement, her husband writing this in part, "At this time, I must step away from public service to be by his side and fully support him through this battle. I cannot in good conscience ask him to face this fight alone while I continue in this demanding and time-consuming position." The president, he has responded on Truth Social, writing, "I have no doubt he will soon be better than ever. Tulsi has done an incredible job, and we will miss her." The Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Aaron Lucas, is going to serve as acting director, and we certainly wish Tulsi, her husband, the best of luck in getting the best treatment moving forward. Okay, the Pentagon drops part 2 of the UFO files, 51 new videos. Okay, we're going to show you the most explosive ones, including shooting down one of these UFOs with a fighter jet. Going to dig into all this stuff and look at some of these videos that came out. Stick with us.
Greg Kelly over at Newsmax. The Newsmax people have been really, really terrific. Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are watching Newsmax and Greg Kelly. Tune in tonight.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief with our amazing technology. But for so many, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. It fits virtually into any shoe, is reusable for up to 6 months, and comes with a money-back guarantee. And this Memorial Day, we want to share with deep gratitude, Signal Relief is now available through the VA. Veterans, talk to your healthcare provider to learn more about getting Signal Relief through your VA benefits. Because caring for those who have served matters, whether it's for you or for someone you care about. Go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
If you've lived through numerous presidents and multiple recessions, you've seen what happens to the world economy when things get rough. And if you're looking for protection for your hard-earned savings, then look no further than American Hartford Gold. Unlike stocks, crypto, real estate, gold and silver can protect you against inflation and recessions. It's a hedge against all the things you don't want to happen to your hard-earned dollars. And with American Hartford Gold, you'll get the #1 precious metals dealer in the country and their support in making sure your money is protected by gold and silver.
Makes me feel secure in having that investment there because it's not fluctuating as the market is, and it's something that you can just hold on to.
In today's day and age, you want to invest in something that is real. I think everyone should pick up the phone and call American Hartford Gold.
American Hartford Gold is the trusted leader in precious metals. Our dedicated team will work closely with you to guide you through the purchase process to help secure your future. Plus, every purchase comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Owning gold gives me a sense that it's not going to just evaporate before my very eyes. I can hold it in my hand, I can touch it, I can go spend it.
I really look at American Hartford Gold in the category of a friend, somebody that I could trust and somebody that I have confidence in.
Whether you've never owned precious metals or you're an experienced buyer, American Hartford Gold's winning reputation and best-in-class customer service will keep you coming back for years. You've worked hard over a lifetime, and that money deserves the protection that you can only find in precious metals. When you call today, ask about the exclusive Freedom Package for new customers and get your free guide to buying precious metals. Call now.
As part of our special TV offer, when you call now, you can get our free guide and the Freedom Package. This includes up to $20,000 in free silver on qualifying purchases, plus free account setup, free shipping, and more. Call now. 855-313-1143. That's 855-313-1143.
I tried everything for my stubborn dandruff, and then I found Nizoral. It works differently to get to the root cause of dandruff. Its active ingredient is 10 times more effective at fighting fungus, the primary cause of dandruff. Say goodbye to stubborn dandruff with Nizoral. Now in refreshing peppermint and tea tree scent.
I like that. Are we alone? We don't know. I want to tell you this. It's been 2 weeks since the Pentagon released the first batch of the UFO files, and today we have more, the second batch. There are 64 total new UFO files that became public today. 51 of them, they are video files. We're going to walk you through the top 5. So here we go. The Pentagon calls this one 4 UAP Formation Iran. It's from August 2022 off the coast of Iran. You see the 3 speedboats in the water, and then lower left, you see that, there it comes. Zooms by them with ease. All right, on to the next. Zoomed in, a spherical UFO is from November 2020, flying in and out of the clouds somewhere above the United States. Got another one, 2021. Video from the skies above Syria shows a UFO instantly accelerating. Look at that, faster than any publicly known human object. On to this one. The U.S. military tracked this UFO for over 4 minutes. This is in 2020. It is an infrared clip from the Middle East. You can see that there. And probably the wildest one of them all, February 2023. Now we know this, the UFO, bang, shot down by a U.S. fighter jet over Lake Huron in Michigan. Okay, kind of crazy here. We're going to be joined now by Elizondo to talk about this. He's a former DOD official and author of Imminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Luis, good to see you tonight.
Bob, thanks so much for having me. It's my honor.
Good to have you here. All right, so let's walk through this one. What do you make of these top 5 videos I showed you? I know you've digested these files. We're shooting one of them down, so let's start with that. Did we go recover the debris, what was left from that? Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, this was coincides with the time where we had Chinese surveillance balloons kind of wafting over, unchallenged over the northern continental United States. It is unknown right now if this is part of that effort. We don't know. There's very little information on it. But I will tell you, I think if you were to ask me what the videos look like in total, this is really a tremendously historical day for transparency and disclosure. And let me just emphasize, it doesn't matter how you feel about the president, he delivered. He delivered on a promise that he made, unlike any other president before him. This president actually delivered on the promise to start releasing these type of files to the American public and allow the American public to judge for themselves.
All right, so let's talk about this video on the screen right now. What do we know made by human beings can just zip around in the sky like this and just pivot on a dime? It's, I mean, you know, it looks like a flying saucer going really fast. What is that?
Yeah, so what we're talking about are objects that when I was at the Pentagon, I was part of the Pentagon's UFO investigation team. I was one of the senior ranking members, and instantaneous acceleration and hypersonic velocity were 2 of the key observables out of 5 that helped categorize an object like this versus something like, let's say, an F-16 or a MiG-25. This clearly is not an aircraft. You can see the way it's maneuvering, the way it is able to change directions virtually instantaneously. The G-forces inside would be well beyond the limitations of
Human
anything
being couldn't be in
biological
there
to us.
doing that, zooming around, getting banked off. Like you said, the G-force, that's impossible for a human, right?
Correct. Even for, the average human can withstand about 9 G-forces for a very short period of time. If you compare that to some of our more sophisticated manned aircraft, they can pull about 17 Gs at the unclassified level before you start having structural failure, right? The plane disintegrates literally in midair. What we are seeing here and what we recorded when I was at the Pentagon were objects in some cases doing 2,000, 3,000 G-force maneuvers.
Say that again, 3,000 G-force.
That's correct, and above.
So I guess I'll ask you the obvious question. What is it? What is this stuff?
Well, there's a lot of theories that are going on. We've been dealing with this now for decades. Part of this document drop that the president authorized, we have, surprise, surprise, documentation going all the way back to the late 1940s from New Mexico. So there have been a tremendous amount of research done, despite what the government has told you in the past. My organization and others were deeply involved in the investigation of UFOs. And you know what? The results were very compelling.
Well, these videos are certainly compelling. And Luis, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. We'll let the public digest it, make their own decisions. We're all adults. They're smart. And like you said, good on the Trump administration for letting this out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Bob, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. All right, Maureen Galindo, right, the nut job, leading the Democrat field in the Texas primary, who's calling to put Jews in camps. We're going to talk about that next with Dr. Michael Savage. Doc, see you soon.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finity, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
Your neighbor just paid an enormous amount for a new roof, but he didn't have to, and neither do you. Because RoofMax can add years of life to your current roof.
Here's how you know you have a problem with your roof. Black streaking, your roof looks rough, or granules shedding off into your gutters or showing up in your driveway. Your roof is wearing out too fast, and it's going to cost you a bundle. RoofMax makes your roof like new by strengthening and rejuvenating it.
Get your roof treated now, but pay later, with no payments for a full year.
Ooh, that new Cologuard Plus test.
10 out of 10.
Now I detect 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Somebody's been working on himself.
Girl, those blue arms say I got you.
The square jaw says trust me.
And the free return label says I'm going places.
The Cologuard Plus test. Non-invasive, no prep, and better than ever. For people 45 plus at average risk, it's the box that checks all the boxes for screening. False positive and negative results may occur, not for those at high risk. Ask your provider or request Cologuard Plus online.
Is it just the mustache? No, it's all of it. It's the way he brings me breakfast, made from scratch every day. And it's the way he brings me a fresh cup of Black Rifle coffee.
Honey, you having a Riley Green dream again?
Just give me 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Honey, Riley's taking me duck hunting.
Oh, come on!
Since 1990, the lightweight Craig Cat has meant quality, affordable boating. Florida Sports Magazine called the Craig Cat an absolutely brilliant breakthrough in watercraft design. With the stability and comfort of a large boat, with the fuel efficiency and portability of a small boat, Craig Cat has put the fun back in boating. Craig Cats are also available in both electric and hybrid models. Call Craig Cat now, toll free at 877-999-4CAT, and step into a Craig Cat.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Freshen up for summer at Cabinets to Go during our Buy More, Save More event, where you can save up to 40% on custom stock cabinets. Or find top-selling favorites like Malibu White and Platinum Gray, priced lower than ever before. Plus, get custom countertops that bring the whole room together at up to 20% off. Buy more, save more, now through May 26th. In stores nationwide or online. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
Who will you honor this Memorial Day? Find out with a search on Ancestry. Explore military records, photos, and more to piece together your family story and the heroes who shaped it. Memberships are on sale now, so start your journey today.
All right, welcome back in. By now, you probably have heard of Maureen Galindo, a Democratic congressional candidate in Texas' 35th district. She's also a sex therapist. Galindo posting on Instagram this week. She's going to turn the Karnes ICE Detention Center into a prison for American Zionists and former ICE officers for human trafficking. It will also be a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will be probably most of the Zionists. All right. Maureen also doubling down on her remarks, having this to say as well. Take a look.
When I say that I want billionaire Zionists in prison, that does not mean I want Jews in internment camps. Why am I getting a whole bunch of death threats and MAGA insults? MAGA and Jewish Zionists apparently are the exact same people. MAGA is the developing Christian Zionism.
People think that because you talked about putting people in camps, Jews in camps. That's why we think that. Dr. Michael Savage, host of Savage Nation, joins us now. Doc, good to see you. Your thoughts on this? What is going on?
Well, she's the new face of the Democrat Party, a sex therapist who says arrest Zionists and castrate them. In plain English, that was my headline on X. She has nice legs. I don't like her sunglasses. However, I would suggest that if the Democrats go down this road, this one could be president in a couple of years. I mean, we don't have to go any further than the sex therapist from Texas. It would be a laughing matter if there weren't a lot of unhinged people in America who actually believe the rhetoric coming out of the mouth of this psycho. Turn the Karnes County ICE facility into a prison for Zionists and a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will probably be most of the Zionists, unquote. Does anyone understand what this is doing in America? Now, she won a primary in March. By the way, she's not just an outlier. She won a primary in March in Texas's 35th congressional district around San Antonio with about 29% of the vote, Bob, beating her rival Johnny Garcia, who was a sheriff, by the way, who got about 27% of the vote. What happens is the unhinged people who believe people, and by the way, she didn't get this out of her own head. There are the four horsemen of the apocalypse, who I will not name, who are pushing this rhetoric. And now it has come to full circle where a candidate is actually running on this.
She's made it
crazy,
pretty far.
Racist nonsense, and it could lead to killing people. The innocent people who go to synagogue, who have no politics whatsoever, could be shot dead in the street, God forbid, because of this loose rhetoric in America right now. She did not start this. She's only running with it. I don't even want to mention the names of those who run with this on a daily basis. Bob, you know who they are. They're out there. They're doing it every day. And this American Zionist, what is a Zionist anyway? A Zionist is someone who believes the Jews have a right to their indigenous homeland. The Jews have been in Palestine for 3,500 years. So what? Anyone who believes that is now a Zionist who deserves to be castrated after being put into a concentration camp right here in the United States of America? People said it couldn't happen here. Guess what? This chilling story teaches us it could happen here, Bob. And all of us of good conscience, left, right, center, Democrat, Republican, or whatever, have to say, no, this has got to stop right now. But I don't hear the leading Democrats saying that. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Doc. Why are they gravitating towards the Democrat Party? Because, you know, we got this Graham Plattner guy up there in Maine. I'm not going to go into it. Everybody knows he had the Nazi tattoo. He's had to do interviews and explain he's not a secret Nazi. Why are they gravitating towards the Democrats right now?
Well, because the party of the left has always been anti-Zionist, and the party of the left has now found a home in the current Democrat Party, which has moved so far to the left that it is indistinguishable from these crazies. They are the left. They are the Democrat Party.
They are.
We can't, Bob, we can't separate them out anymore. So it should make all Democrats very uncomfortable as to where their party has actually gone. This is where they've gone, to this crazy sex worker, to this crypto Nazi over there in Maine, who are saying, no, they're really not crazy. They're not Nazis. Put us in power and you'll see how good we really are. No, we can't put them in power.
Yeah.
We have to put them out to a mental hospital before it's too late.
I've interviewed so many other Democrats. They go, well, our party has a big tent. You know, we welcome all discussions. Whoa, you better be careful how big that tent is. And you better have a backbone at some point and say, but they won't. They can't do it.
They're not in the Republican Party, as you just said. It may be a big tent. Well, the Republicans also have a big tent, but they're not letting these lunatics in.
No, when you prove yourself to be a lunatic, then you get kicked out here. That's how that works.
I think so.
They're not doing the same thing. That's the problem. Doc, we got to leave it there.
Well, can I show the...
Is that the future president for Democrats?
There we go.
You're not far off. There are,
you
know, all those trans people, they put the get up on and the lipstick and, you know, the cross-dressers that go to schools and libraries.
Bob, I thought of putting him on the California ballot for governor, but I couldn't figure out the right name. I'm still thinking about it. He should have been a write-in candidate. He might have polled very, very highly. Thank you very much for today. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. And all the men who died for our freedom didn't die so that a sex therapist from Texas could run on such a vile Hitlerian campaign.
President Trump signing a new common sense executive order this week, restoring integrity to America's financial systems. The order protects America's financial system from illicit activity, strengthen customer identification requirements for financial institutions, and address the credit risks posed by extending financial services to non-work authorized illegal aliens. It also directs Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to issue a formal advisory to financial institutions identifying red flags and suspicious activity patterns tied to payroll tax evasion, concealment of true account ownership, off-the-book wage payments and structuring schemes, labor trafficking, and the use of individual taxpayer identification numbers to open accounts or obtain credit without verified legal presence. Cracking down once again on illegals. Joining us to talk about it, Dick Morris, advisor to President Trump. Dick, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, that order will have an enormous effect on Latinos throughout the United States.
Explain why. What's going on here?
Well, there are various estimates, more likely about 20 million illegal immigrants in the U.S., mainly from Latin countries.
Right.
And many, in addition to that, many tens of millions work legally and have cash shipped home to their families.
Right.
Honduras, for example, has 1 million people sending home money every year. And what this will do is make sure that it does not end up in the hands of the fraudsters or the money launderers or the narco people.
Okay.
And it requires a real identification before you can send and before you can receive. Right now, we have no idea really who's doing it. And this regulates that and controls that. And it also gives Trump a powerful tool to deal with immigration.
So you're saying this will help protect these people from those evildoers, so to speak?
Not just protect, it'll also lower the interest rates.
Okay.
These companies are charging 9 and 8% interest when they send money home to mom. And this will
that's a lot of money.
And this will cut it maybe to 3 or 4. And it's a very potent vote getter with Latinos. This could be the crucial step in his winning a majority of the Latino vote.
So you're saying this is big in the Latin community. They will recognize this, they will see it, and will help him with that voter base.
A lot won't like it because they're here illegally.
Right.
But if they're here legally, they're going to love him for it.
Here legally, keywords.
Yeah.
That's right. The ones here legally that can vote, right, or should vote. Yeah.
You know, the other thing about Latinos that's important is I just got John McLaughlin's new poll back.
Right.
And he shows Trump with a 48% approval rating.
That's pretty high.
Very high, and about what it's been throughout.
Right.
The media says it's sunk, he's dropping, he's crashing. That's all baloney.
Yeah, well, you know, liberals, they always try and lump black, brown people, Hispanic people into that category. They're law-abiding citizens. They came here legally, work hard. They appreciate law and order. They fled that kind of crap when they came here.
Right, and he also is saying that maybe the black vote is for Democrats, but not the Latino vote.
Good point. Dick Morris, always a pleasure. Great to see you. Have a good weekend.
Same to you.
Okay, on to this. Former foes becoming unlikely allies in a new interview. Talking about these two, Hunter Biden and Candace Owens. So I guess they want to go see the Pope together? His Holiness. What is this all about? Well, that is next in News from the Left. Stick with us.
Let's you and I go see the Pope together.
I would love to do that.
250 years ago, a nation was forged by grit, by courage, by freedom. Today, we raise a glass to that same spirit. 4547 Straight Bourbon Whiskey, the 250th Anniversary Edition. Bold, independent, unmistakably American. Toast to independence this year. Built by patriots, for patriots. Order yours today.
I'm Yalmer Heinrich. I'm in the nutritional business, primarily selling plant-derived minerals. Now, after being in this business for 43 years, owning a cancer hospital in Mexico, and associating with some of the most knowledgeable nutritional people in the world, I came to this conclusion. The world is sick due to a lack of minerals in our food, which is caused by a lack of minerals in topsoil. There is an incredible and proven nutritional product on the market that can overcome this problem. It's Immuno 150. This unusual food supplement contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There's nothing like it. Now watch the 3 videos on our website and place your order for what may be the best food supplement in the world. Now Immuno 150 is different, it's real, it's powerful, it's helped thousands, and we believe it enjoys the highest reorder rate in the industry. Thank you and God bless.
Since 1990, the lightweight Craig Cat has meant quality, affordable boating. Florida Sports Magazine called the Craig Cat an absolutely brilliant breakthrough in watercraft design. With the stability and comfort of a large boat, but the fuel efficiency and portability of a small boat, Craig Cat has put the fun back in boating. Craig Cats are also available in both electric and hybrid models. Call Craig Cat now, toll free at 877-999-4CAT and step into a Craig Cat.
A dedicated mentor, an empowered parent, an effective after-school program, digital literacy tools that protect kids online. These are just some of the solutions to the Youth Mental Health Challenge. At the Coalition to Empower Our Future, we're bringing together experts in youth well-being to solve this complex challenge. Our mission? Keep kids happy and healthy. Learn more at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
Let's you and I go see the Pope together.
I would love to do that.
Seriously.
I think he's a little mad at America right now.
No, but you and I
he's been. I was tweeted the same day as the Pope, by the way, by Trump when he said bad things about me.
For real, let's go to the Vatican.
I would love to. I would love to.
It's the coolest place in the world.
All right, time now, news from the left. That was conservative podcaster Candace Owens sitting down to, or next to, disgraced son of former President Joe Biden, former druggie Hunter Biden, discussing a wide variety of topics. They seem like they are friends. But not too long ago, Candace accused Hunter of being a sexual predator, calling him a degenerate, and for him to be in prison over the laptop from hell, as President Trump so famously put it. Fast forward to now. Hunter and Candace diving into conspiracy theories. They've even talked about how President Trump's assassination attempts were staged somehow. Take a listen.
I mean, whether it's Butler or Charlie or
makes no sense.
These things that it's just not right.
So disrespectful that we're not even getting good psyops anymore. Like we're supposed to believe he survived 4 assassination attempts, the first president that's ever survived 4 assassination attempts.
Yeah.
They lie to us about things, they make a big deal, and then they make it want to, it's going to go away.
Let's talk about it. Newsmax contributors Smythe, Chrissy Clark join us now. Good to see you both.
Thanks for having us.
Chrissy, going to start with you. So how would you fake Butler, Pennsylvania? I was there when that happened. I saw it happen. How do you fake getting shot in the head?
I don't know. This has been a conspiracy theory that has been plaguing both the right and the left for a long time. In fact, 42% of Democrats do not believe that any of the assassination attempts on President Trump were real. They believe they're staged, which is absolutely whack. But I did give this interview a listen. I was trying with my whole heart to listen to this with an open mind. And at first it was very warming, heartwarming. And then this interview just went into deranged territory, which is pretty typical for how these interviews kind of go. And I think only history will be able to tell us why this interview happened, because Hunter Biden is either gearing up for some sort of congressional or presidential run, or these two really are just future besties.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was kind of where I wanted to take this. Do either of these two, Kay, really have that much influence? Like, why do we care about Candace Owens or what Hunter Biden's talking about at this point?
I mean, I think the only reason that we care about it is because it's so insane. It's so crazy. Look, Candace started out so great when she was covering the Charlie Kirk stuff for all of like 10 minutes. And then she went completely off the rails and it started getting very scary. And I think like Chrissy and I talked about it at length off air, because we're very good friends off air as well. It was so chaotic that it was more, do you know what it felt like? This is going to sound terrible, but it felt like we were gossiping about someone that we used to know, because that's what watching Candace Owens' career kind of feels like at this point. Hunter Biden, it was so uncomfortable watching him, just like that classic manipulative victim status, not really seeming to take any kind of ownership for all of the things that he's done. Like, oh, woe is me, the laptop, blah, 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 blah. Like, all of us have seen the inside of that laptop. Why are we giving this man any time of day?
I don't know. When I think about Hunter Biden,
warn people, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
I think about the pictures of him smoking crack or drugs, whatever it was, and being an artist, a famous painter. So we know he likes to do that too. All right, I want to move away from that. Let's talk about this. The View's Sunny Hostin, she was talking about Black Lives Matter and maybe said it wasn't that bad when a bunch of cities were ransacked and parts of them were burned down. Take a listen to this.
I just think we need to make it clear that there can be no comparison between the Black Lives Matter movement and what we saw on January 6th. So I just want to make that clear. There were very limited destruction of property and violence during the uprising, the Black Lives Matter uprising.
Chrissy, BLM, they destroyed cities. I was working in Philadelphia the night they tore apart Center City, Philadelphia. I mean, millions and millions of dollars worth of damage there. I think she's just trying to gaslight people. That would be my guess.
Yeah, there are some things in politics where it comes to a head where there's just, you can only laugh at that. You can simply only laugh at that because there's video footage and evidence of those riots completely breaking down cities. I remember when I was living in D.C., there were planked boards on windows for anticipations of protests, not even protests happening, just the anticipation of something happening. That was the norm. That's what is expected when BLM riots. And to be honest, can we just give it up with the January 6th thing? Like, no one cares anymore. The average American is like, yeah, not the best thing. No one cares. It wasn't 9/11. Come on, Sonny.
Well, it's pretty much the only thing they can really cling to, though. You know, they got this little thing. They're going to hold on to it, and they're going to run with it, and then try and make it seem like it's not, or the BLM wasn't that bad. Got to wrap. Kay, Chrissy, good to see you both. You have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
All right, an update on the death of future NASCAR Hall of Famer Kyle Busch. Plus, we're also going to have a Memorial Day message when we come back.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
Pump up the volume.
Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
The sale is on at urgentcarekit.com/America.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief with our amazing technology. But for so many, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. It fits virtually into any shoe, is reusable for up to 6 months, and comes with a money-back guarantee. And this Memorial Day, we want to share with deep gratitude, Signal Relief is now available through the VA. Veterans, talk to your healthcare provider to learn more about getting Signal Relief through your VA benefits. Because caring for those who have served matters, whether it's for you or for someone you care about. Go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Okay, welcome back in. Finally tonight, an update on the sudden death of legendary NASCAR driver Kyle Busch. The two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion became unresponsive while testing a racer simulator in Concord, North Carolina. New 911 audio reveals Busch was coughing up blood the day before his death. President Trump reacting to news of Kyle's death, writing this on Truth Social. The legendary NASCAR driver Kyle Busch tragically and unexpectedly passed away yesterday. He was a true talent who loved NASCAR and its fans. Kyle was a winner. We wish the best for Kyle's family during this tragic time. On another note, this weekend we celebrate Memorial Day, honoring all the men and women who have fallen in the line of duty. We are forever grateful. This country wouldn't have it without you. Everyone have a great weekend. Infinity's next.